Okay, ready? Okay. Morning, everyone. Welcome to the committee meeting of April 2nd. We will start off today with our Finance and Economic Development Committee.
I'd like to call the Finance and Economic Development Committee to order. Let the record reflect that all members are present. Council Vice Chair Kaua'i is excused for today. Clerk, can you please read the first item?
Minutes of the March 6, 2025 Finance and Economic Development Committee meeting.
We get a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Any questions on the minutes? Anyone in the audience wishing to testify? Any discussion from the members? Not all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Next item.
Bill number 2944, a bill for an ordinance amending Chapter 5A, Kaua'i County Code 1987 as amended, relating to the real property tax. This is for the new tax classification, long-term affordable rental.
Move to approve.
Second.
Do we have any questions on this item?
Yes.
I have an amendment.
Okay.
Can I
Let's take the amendment first.
Yeah, let's do the amendment. I move to amendment circulated.
Second.
This amendment is simply a clarification. It doesn't change any of the substance. It just further defines who is eligible for the exemption.
Okay. So it just clarifies that if you have a second home and you're not living on that property, it'll go in the long term, and you're renting it at the low rate, you'll go into long term. If you have multiple houses on a property and you also live there and you're renting, then you'll stay in the owner occupied class. Any questions on this amendment? If not, anyone in the audience wishing to testify on the amendment? All those in any final discussion for the amendment? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carried. Back to the main motion as amended. Do we have any? I'll suspend the rules. Councilmember Cowden has a question.
I just have a basic question. Like in general, I feel supportive of this, but Council Chair, because this is your bill, you're separating out long-term affordable rental just to reduce the confusion of when it's basically a rental house versus an owner-occupant?
Correct.
And so do you have an intention, or do you envision an intention for, changing that tax rate?
I don't have an intention at this time to change the tax rate.
But you envision maybe there might be a need for that?
At some point, depending on how the market fluctuates, if there's an opportunity to provide a larger benefit for owners that live in their house and not for someone that's renting out their house, that opportunity is there. So they'll be separate and apart, so we could basically set tax rates for each individual class. Right now, we can't, because they're all grouped together in one tax class.
Okay.
And, for me personally, I think the owner-occupant, if I live in the house that I own, I should have a larger benefit than one that is renting out their house as a second home or third home. But as far as the intention to, impact tax rates, I don't have any intention to change any tax rates this year.
And I'm just going to throw in oftentimes when people are renting out a house at the long-term affordable rate, they're actually renting it at best zero or often a loss. What I find a number of people who are doing that are renting to their employees or somebody, so they're basically subsidizing housing on it. So, there's value in continuing to have those long-term affordable rentals be taxed low, maybe even sometimes even lower. It could go either way.
Lower than owner-occupant?
Well, I mean, like, if people are renting out houses at a loss, like I know houses that rent out at like $10,000 a year loss just because somebody doesn't want to toss out their tenant that have been there for 20 years, things like that. Sometimes people can afford to rent at a loss but it's not easy to maintain that for a long time. It's just like in areas that are near the beach, everything is so crazy expensive.
Yeah, well, I think, it comes down to a choice, right? If I'm gonna buy a property and I wanna buy a property on the beach, and that property's $3 million, then I would not expect a tax break.
Yeah.
I would not expect a low, affordable housing rental tax break.
Right.
So
But-
I think that's
But
kind of,
if it's been in your family and it was bought originally for $20,000 in 1970 or something like that, which is the case,
right, then you put a long-term renter in there and
You still operate
you have
at
the
a
low
loss.
tax rate, and if it's 100 years old, then, providing if there's still a mortgage on there, then that's a different story.
no,
That's a different story.
We don't
But-
have to argue it, but they still do operate at a loss when it's owned outright, just to mow it and to insure it and to pay the taxes on a property that, so,
If they own it outright and they are in the long-term rental class, how can they lose money?
easy. It takes that.
Explain that.
Okay, because you have to have it termited, because you have to have the lawn taken care of, because you have to pay for insurance on an old wooden house, because that property, even with the 3% is worth 1.5 or 2 million because of that 3% going up every year and what the neighborhood is. Just between taxes, insurance, and an upkeep, it could cost more than $1,800 a month to run and operate. It's pretty easy for that.
But I think, at the end of the day, if there's any discussion on increasing or decreasing or adjusting the rate on the long-term affordable rental, that'll take place at another time.
Yeah.
And obviously there's a lot of considerations that go into that. We want to encourage the long-term affordable rental because it helps our housing crisis. I think in this case, we're basically just trying to make it a lot clearer, because right now, someone can live in a property, in a house, and own another property that they're renting for long-term affordable rent to another family, and that property is going to be considered owner-occupied, which gets confusing. Right now, it'll have its own class. It'll be called long-term affordable rental, and I think that's the whole intent of this, is just to be able to really clarify, what the tax designation is, and I agree with it. It'll get confusing if I'm the owner, I'm not actually living on that property, but I'm renting it long-term affordable rental. Yeah, if it's called owner-occupied, it's pretty confusing, because then I'll have two properties that are considered owner-occupied under me. In this case, it's will be long-term affordable rental. The house the other person is living in, it would be their owner-occupied.
I get the confusion. I just was asking questions because my fear is if it's another vehicle to raise taxes on the very, very minimal amount of units that we have left, especially in the Northeast and the North, probably also in the Poipu area, there's areas that are the higher income areas, there's almost no place left for workers. And so most of what I know in this range here, people who are bothering to give that good break might be a tenant of a commercial center or an employee. Usually there's some reason, it's a gift to put it in this long-term affordable rental. So if we put any more pressure on it with taxation, we would just lose a whole nother layer. So I just kind of wanted to hear what the intention is. I get that right here, that all this does is separate it, which makes sense.
And
But
to me, it makes it clearer.
yeah, I get a little nervous, but yeah.
As time goes on, we tend to make things more confusing and more convoluted, and I think Scott came in with a new set of eyes and is like, let's try and split this out and make it less confusing on what it actually is and what we're taxing.
Bottom line is currently you have non-owner occupant properties that are having the owner occupant benefit. So now, as you just explained, Committee Chair, they'll be in the right class. They'll be in the long-term rental class.
Okay, any other questions on this? Anyone in the audience wishing to testify? If not, any final discussion from the members? Take a roll call vote.
Councilmember Bolasan?
Aye.
Councilmember Carvalho?
Aye.
Councilmember Cowden?
Aye.
Councilmember Holland?
Aye.
Councilmember Kuli'i is excused. Council Chair Raposo.
Aye.
Committee Chair Kanashiro.
Aye.
6 ayes.
Motion passes as amended. Next bill, please.
That's all for Finance and Economic
Oh,
Development
Committee
Committee.
of the Whole. Oh, I thought I had them all. Okay, seeing no further business and hearing no objections, Finance and Economic Development Committee is now adjourned.
I'll call the Committee of the Whole to order. Let the record reflect all members are present except for Mr. Cooley, who's excused. Can we have the one and only bill, please?
Bill number 2943, a bill for an ordinance to establish a new Article 7, Chapter 20, Kaua'i County Code 1987 as amended, relating to criminal trespass onto county lands.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion or public testimony? Councilmember Cotton?
Yeah. Do we speak to the managing director? Who do we ask the questions of? Or do we talk to Kalani K?
All depends. What's the question?
Maybe I'll have both of them.
Okay, I'll suspend the rules. Can we have both of you come up, please?
Good morning, Chair, Council members, Kaua'i, Police Department.
Okay, so in general, I support this, but I'm going to just, again, illustrate my concern. When we have it, basically, criminal trespass can happen on county lands, whether it's improved or unimproved. So that's basically all county lands. So it's very easy for me to understand if we're looking at right around, right in the office courtyard or a water tank or a refuge station, right? Refuge transfer station. You got a sign up, you got a fence up, it's really clear. How does this work when it's all county lands? Like people live on the easements on the side of the road, right? Like they have a couple people living really close to me on the easements side of the road and a handful on the street just down the way. How does this impact that?
You want me to take a step? So, Rick Matsuyama, Mayor's Office. So this bill requires us, in order to issue a trespass, it requires us to have signage up. And we will obviously prioritize our signage around the, prime areas. There is no way we're going to put signs on every county roadway. That would just be beyond the scope of our capacity. And so I think those people will be safe because we won't put signs in your neighborhood.
Well, the bill requires the land in question to be closed to the public. It has to be closed to the public. So sidewalks is not closed to the public. Rights of way is not closed to the public.
Correct.
This requires that the property has to be closed to the public and a sign has to be posted. So all of the areas that are open to the public does not meet the requirement of this bill.
Okay, and I just wanted to confirm that that's the intention, because the way it was presented in the first read, to just be able to have some sort of way of addressing a clear violation. And I'll give the example of the transfer station. To me, that's clear violation, right? That's clear trespassing, right, when they're coming in and cutting up our covers. And will we be keeping any kind of log? Because like for me, in the first 6 months, like after 6 months, I'd probably really want to hear a report of how many people fell under this and for what reasons and where. Probably a year later, I would want to be looking for something like that. Do you have an intention to be tracking this, or will your normal system be able to track how many we have like that?
So our records management system will keep track of who is issued the trespass notices. Currently, we do that. If the police is involved and we receive the copy of that, it'll be in there and we'll be able to provide a report when asked. I did do a check before coming here in our system just to see approximately how many, and I found one person that was issued a trespass warning on county properties.
Really? Like all the stuff that we've had as a problem? It's kind of amazing. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that on the record that we talk about that, because the spirit of this I 100% support, and I just, anytime we do anything, I try and think what could go wrong. So I wouldn't want it to be, people have no right to be anywhere if you don't have the capacity to swim in our economic current.
Any other questions for the admin? If not, thank you. Anyone in the audience wishing to testify? Seeing none, I'll call a meeting back to order. Any further discussion? None? Okay, motion is to approve. Roll call.
Councilmember Bulasan?
Aye.
Councilmember Carvalho?
Aye.
Councilmember Cowden?
Aye.
Councilmember Holland?
Aye.
Councilmember Kanashiro?
Aye.
And Council Chair Reposo.
Aye.
6 ayes.
With that, there is no further business in today's committee agenda. These meetings are adjourned.
Oh, record breaking.
When we did the first bill, we just said all those in favor, say aye. The second bill, we did
No, the first bill we